Well, hey, people of Earth. Welcome back to another episode of the Music Survival Guide podcast. I love saying that. This is number 18 for us. We are legal. Wicca, right. I love seeing the episodes. The episodes multiply like funny little gremlins. Although we don't turn out a ton of episodes a month, or maybe even we go a little farther than that, I do know that we are achieving 100% quality, which means everything. I really want to thank Brian from Black Suit Youth, who was our last guest. We had a lot of fun with him. It was the coldest day of winter. Hope you enjoyed him and his band's music. I'm very happy for him and what he has going on. He's a cool guy. I've known him for a long time, and it's good to see him still doing his stuff. He's a trooper. Tonight is actually a first for us here, believe it or not, as our guests are calling in. One from Tennessee, the other is from Pennsylvania. All of our featured guests so far have been face-to-face, whether they have come to us or we have gone to them. And as much as I love the personal aspect of that, Monkey, my partner over here, and I definitely wanted to start getting on the phone. As we know, it will open the door for more guests. So we are about to dial them up, and I'm going to introduce them when we get them on the phone. Here, Monkey has the phone number available. He's going to... There it is, folks.
How are you?
Hello to John and Wade, the authors of a new and pretty serious book called Hacking Music. Before we really begin, guys, can each of you maybe properly introduce yourselves so the listeners will be able to kind of distinguish between your voices as we get rolling?
Sure. Okay.
So who wants to go first?
John, go ahead. I'll kick us off. This is John Pisciotta, founder of Jetpack Artist Ventures, headquartered here in Nashville. And my co-author is Wade. Wade, do you want to...
Yeah, definitely. I'm Wade Sutton. I'm the founder of Rocket to the Stars Artist Services, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's an artist services record label. I am not in Nashville like John. I'm actually about an hour north of Pittsburgh. And wow. I'm also the founder and the host of the 6 Minute Music Business Podcast.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah, I got a couple of questions about that too toward the end, so we're going to touch on that a little bit, Wade. So, John, I wanted to thank you too real quick for sending me out a copy of the book. I've had it for about a week. I haven't been able to totally dissect it, but it's pretty awesome.
Hey, great.
Yeah, it's super cool. Yeah, thank you guys so much. John, a funny little tidbit of info. John had found out about us through our wonderful interview that we did with Tony Harnell, actually.
That's right. That's where we first connected.
Yeah, that was cool. It took a couple of months because, life is just a crazy thing. And I think we tried, this is maybe like the third or fourth time we actually tried to get it rolling. We finally got it. So I'm happy to have you guys with us.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. And you both sound great. The conferencing is coming through nicely. This is actually our first phone call for our little show. We usually have people face-to-face, but we kind of wanted to start the whole phone conversation thing. So you guys are our first, actually.
Great.
So that's cool. Going down in history. So now this book, Hacking Music, it seems very in-depth. Do you guys personally have musical backgrounds? Did you start in bands, business majors, full-time writers? Tell us something about yourselves.
Yeah, sure. In my background, I came up as a guitar player, producer. Grew up in Texas. Toured for 2 years out of college after I moved to Belmont. Went to Belmont University, toured the world, had a great time.
Nice.
Got that out of my system. And from there, I wrote with Stony Tree for 4 years as a writer-producer. And that turned into a production company, and that kind of evolved into Jetpack Artist Ventures as it is currently, yeah.
Cool. And how long has that been a thing?
Jetpack Artist Ventures, it originally started as a production company, and it kind of evolved into what it is now, which is, I describe it as a venture studio that accelerates high potential assets for artists.
Cool.
Like a angel fund in a sense.
Well, that's a lot of great stuff that you've done there, John. So what about you, Wade? What do you got to tell us?
My background is much different than John's. I actually spent about 18 years working as a professional radio journalist, and during that time I got to do a lot of really cool things. For a couple of seasons I covered the Pittsburgh Steelers. There was a stretch there that I was covering high-profile homicide trials.
Wow.
But I hit a point in my career, in part because of the homicide trials, where I started thinking, I want to change lanes and maybe find something that I can do that, leaves me feeling more fulfilled, but also giving myself an opportunity to be around people that were more positive and more creative.
Yeah, I was going to say that probably gets a little depressing after a while.
Yeah, it definitely does. So what had happened was I had started what was really a very large-scale singing competition here in Western Pennsylvania, and it was one of the biggest competitions of its kind on the East Coast.
When was this? What time of year?
We started that, I would say, about 8 years ago,
okay.
And brought some people in from the music business who I had met, and basically what we started doing was working with the contestants and, working with them on things like voice instruction, teaching them about the production of live shows, talking to them about how artists interact with the media, how they go about marketing themselves, things like that. And after doing that for a couple of years, I started thinking, I think this is where I am supposed to be at this point in my life. And you make a decision that, hey, this is what I want to do. Sometimes that decision's made for you, which is what happened to me. I actually got called into my general manager's office a little more than 5 years ago, and completely unexpectedly I was laid off from my job. And I've been there for 2 decades.
Sometimes that's a blessing, though,
Yeah, and it was. So I came home literally the day that I was laid off, and I started the Artist Services label, and I haven't looked back since. So this book, Hacking Music with John, is actually my second book. My first book I co-authored with Rick Barker, who for a couple of years was Taylor Swift's manager, and just have been doing this ever since, writing bios for artists and press kits, consulting with them on various things in the music business, and writing.
That's great. You guys have a lot going on, super versatile backgrounds. I love it. Now, the book is only a few months old. What are your plans related to hacking music for 2019, which we're about a quarter of the way through already, if you can believe it?
Yeah, really.
It's crazy.
Our plans are to continue to spread the message of hacking music, which is really, we could talk about that in a little bit. That's going to look, what that looks like currently is we've actually already just shot an online course for hacking music, which is, almost 90 videos.
It's a lot.
Wow, that's super cool.
Yeah, to break down the different sections of the book, and do a little more hand-holding, a little more explaining.
Yeah.
And really walk people through the process of decision-making and mental frameworks that allow you to be smarter about your career rather than just creative and hopeful.
Well, I know Wade mentioned in one of the promo videos that I watched that it was basically a textbook, and I can definitely understand that from the whole kind of vibe, but I feel like this is almost something that can be brought into schools and taught almost to like a college class. Was that an idea at one point, or is that a future idea?
Yeah, it's definitely, it kind of grew out of that. I was asked to teach a course at Belmont and to create a couple courses at Belmont. And Belmont is a great university, but as you know, the educational system is really slow in evolving and implementing things. So they, the dean of the music business program said, hey, here's some books you can look at and, use. And I looked at them, and, they were talking about MySpace and, stuff that really wasn't relevant. So I said, hey, I'd feel more comfortable if I just kind of talked about how we work at Jetpack, how we think, what's some of our decision-making processes, in a way that really helps students. I mean, it is a textbook, but it's a textbook that you do. The last thing we want this to be is just you read it, you put it on a shelf.
Right.
This is a book that you don't get right the first time out. You get it right over time. Very much
it's
the spirit of the book is what's called lean music.
Right.
Which,
I remember as I went
a learning cycle. It is a textbook, and it was kind of inspired and really brought together through the courses at Belmont, and it's really expanded since then.
It's funny that you mentioned MySpace. My partner over here just pulled up his phone, and I had read a quick blurb about this, I think this week, that MySpace lost apparently like 12 years of music that it had stored.
Yes, it did.
Yeah. It's kind of, that's interesting because do people go to MySpace still? I mean, it was super fun for a while, and then it kind of just died.
I don't know if anybody's going to lose any sleep over that.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. It seemed like it was almost an important blast of news, but then I was kind of like, does it matter? I don't know.
Honestly, if I could jump in here real quick, I actually uploaded a lot of my original stuff on MySpace a long time ago. This was back in like 2004, 2005.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure I forgot my password.
Well, sure.
But,
I don't even have my email.
But the point is, I would bet money that I'm one of the people that lost their music, because I think after reading that short article, it had a lot to do with like a certain time frame, which was between the years 2003 and like 2008, if I'm not mistaken.
Something.
So but I mean, on top of that, which is actually infuriating, someone who opened a MySpace page was actually on my MySpace page because they owned my songs somehow. I mean, that's weird, and I don't even know how to even tackle that problem. But the fact that you can upload songs onto a site, and then a couple of years down the line, you go to look at your song list, and there's somebody else on it. That was very strange to me. Now, me personally, I still to this day, I'm not as ambitious as I should be, maybe. So I kind of shrugged it off, but I was a little pissed. And I just honestly, I feel like that's a little relevant to the issue, but.
Well, I think it's probably gone now anyway. So
no, but that's the thing. It's like I finally released those songs to the public, publicly. And I've kind of forgotten all about it. I'm trying to put that in the past, but I don't know. It's just...
I agree with what John said. It's something that I don't think people are losing sleep over. I think what it was actually more disruptive was last week when we had that stretch on the one day when both Facebook and Instagram were having the problems that they were having.
Yeah, I thought that it was my phone personally, but then I realized everybody was having the same trouble.
Yeah, my wife was crying. I came home, my wife was crying. She's like, I can't get on Instagram.
Oh, dear.
Really?
Right.
Yeah.
And you know what, too, is, it didn't get quite as much coverage, but the day before that, there were a lot of Verizon customers along the East Coast that weren't able to send text messages to each other. And I think that, between what happened there with Verizon, and particularly even more so what happened the following day with Facebook and Instagram, I think it further emphasizes the importance of artists making sure that they spend the time and energy focusing on building up direct marketing lists.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Sure. I didn't know about the Verizon thing. I knew obviously about Instagram and Facebook. But so let me talk a little bit more about the book, obviously, which I have right in front of me. Let me see if I could flutter the pages a little bit. And there you go. Pick that up on the microphone a little bit. But so let me mention about the cover, which is it's a cool cover. I mean, I love red and black as a combination of colors myself. It says on the top above the title, The Music Business Model Canvas, a collection of strategic frameworks for the new music marketplace. Now, I hear words or terms like quote unquote the music business or industry, etc. And I just kind of cringe nowadays myself. I don't know if I'm jaded or cynical or whatever. I think I'm kind of allowed though, because I've also danced, been involved in this dance for a long time myself.
Sure.
But what do you meet people that are kind of lost to the business already, and you help them? Do you reconvince them to like get back involved, or is it just do you teach an old dog new tricks basically?
Our part of our thinking here is a lot of people refer to it as the music industry and all this big whizzy words.
Right.
This is a marketplace, which means there's buyers and sellers and leverage and business components. So one of the problems with one of the Achilles heels with creative right-brain people is, the idea that, if people just hear their music, they'll fall in love with it. It's what we call magical thinking. A friend of mine coined that. He said, musicians are made of magic. And what he means is that, part of their process, the creative process is magical. But the more important takeaway is that often musicians and artists think, well, I don't have to really think about structuring a business here and operating like a business and sales and numbers and metrics. And they just kind of check into this magical land of happy unicorns. And that's not how careers are built. From the lower aspirational baby levels, you can think that way. But, as soon as you can graduate into that next tier professional thinking artist, your career starts to take shape. So that's really kind of what the book is about, is leaving that magical thinking, musicians are made of magic headspace, and really building a career, building a business around your music. Much of the Acting Music book doesn't really tell you how to write songs or how to play instruments.
Right.
You're going to figure that out on your own.
Good.
This is all the back office infrastructure, the blocking and tackling that supports that creative part of your business. You're going to do that. You don't need help in figuring out how to play drums or produce music. There's plenty of things on YouTube that you should be able to figure that out in a matter of months.
Sure.
If you don't, that's a problem.
and let me jump in and kind of add to what John was saying, because I think that one of the things that provides a lot more context to this is kind of knowing how this whole thing came about. I mean, John talked a little bit about his time teaching in Belmont, but a couple of years ago, I was on one of my regular trips to Nashville, and John invited me out to his house, and we were having this conversation, and he pitched this idea to me, and he said, I've got this idea for this book. And, when he explained it to me, the minute he explained it, I told him, I said, I've read a lot of music business books, and I said, there's not really anything out there right now that musicians can go by that they can read about what he was talking about specifically and wanting to do. And, he asked me to come on and be the co-author on it. But what I think is important to point out is that, you can go out and you can find a lot of different books about the music business, but one of the things you're not going to find in a lot of books are, as John was saying, not only the strategic frameworks that are in here, but there are a lot of systems, so to speak, that are in this book that are pulled from other kinds of business. And, we've talked a lot, and a lot of people who are involved in the music marketing side will agree with me when I say this. The music business is 3 to 5 years behind almost every other business. It's constantly in a state of catch-up. So, to be able to go out there and look and see what other businesses were doing for things like, particularly for like team building, who are the people that you surround yourself with, not just what are those roles, but but what are those personalities that you're looking for in those different kinds of people, and how do those personalities interact with each other? Project management, how you sit down and create a system for yourself so that you can plug in different components for a major project that you're taking on and make sure that thing actually gets completed without you feeling overwhelmed and having the whole thing come to a grinding halt.
Which is really pulled from the technology world of having, built technology platforms before. That project management Kanban system came from Toyota and really blossomed in the technology world. But what we're doing here is we're applying it to your musical career and your musical projects. Because everything you're endeavoring to do within your career is a project.
Sure.
How you manage it, how you execute it, how you make your days is important. It doesn't matter what the widget is. It can be a record, it can be a video, whatever. The widget can change, but that back office process of project management is essential nowadays. Even more so, because your time is even more valuable today than it was 4 years ago.
Right, and it's hard to make time, nowadays.
Yep.
It goes so fast. I mean, I don't know, it's like you're clinging to every second of the day,
Absolutely. You need to be surgical in how you use your time.
Yeah, for sure.
There's an example in the Super Song section where, there's 4 quadrants in the book, and 2 of these quadrants are unusable, and publishers, 90% of the songs are unpitchable because they're writing from a headspace that is not monetizable and not, they're inferior songs in a sense. But on the other side of the matrix, the Super Song, right side of the matrix, 90% of the songs that are making money for some of the largest publishing in the world come from this side of the matrix. So, if you've got 4 hours a day to write a song, you better be damn sure that you're hitting the target, and you're not just, jamming with your friends or writing any song that comes to you. There's a very specific kind of song that generates 90% of the revenue for publishing companies. So you should know that before before you spend five years just writing blindly just because you want to be creative. You need to use your time wisely.
Right. No, I totally understand that. And if I could even maybe, play devil's advocate a little bit here, what makes us musicians, artists, whatever, put our trust in John Pisciotta and Wade Sutton and their little handbook here? Like, what's gonna, like Wade had said, there's a lot of these books, but this is interesting. Like, it feels different to me. It feels different to me, and I'm not just saying that. It feels different, and why?
That's a great question, and I'll take a cut at it. Wade, you can chime in.
Okay.
But the key thing here is that we don't believe in silver bullets. There's not there's not a way to cheat this. You actually have to build a business and build content that is important to your listeners. So there's no shortcuts. And the thinking is that one person's hindsight is the next person's foresight. So we are open sourcing this for our listeners. We've had joint ventures with Garth Brooks' company. We've raised $19 million with our co-author, Jeff, who's not on the call, was with Tim McGraw for 20 years and played on a dozen Grammys for Tim.
Yeah, I have. I want to bring him up a little later too. Again.
Yeah. We work with, the largest publishing company in the world, who's in charge of, most of the music in the world, and we're able to compare notes. And I think the quote from Ted was really spot on. He said, "Hacking music is an operating system to the way the music marketplace actually works." So this is the largest company in the world, and we work with him every day, and he trusts us because we don't believe in magical thinking. We actually believe in building things that are valuable.
Right,
and that's That's kind of core to a career, and you can't cheat your way into it. You actually have to build great stuff and a great team and a great business, and
Sure.
really have integrity
Absolutely.
about what you do.
And that quote.
And I think too.
Go on.
Go
Wade.
ahead.
No, go on. Wait, I'm sorry. Go
Well,
ahead.
no. I was going to say, and the other thing too is, we talk about the fact that we looked at the systems that were in place in these other industries and brought them into music. Even with that being said, this stuff that is in here is stuff that John and I use in our own businesses every day. There's
So you're practicing
John
what you
mentioned-
preach, basically, which is great.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't do that.
And it's funny because, one of the things John mentioned Kanban earlier, and one of the things about Kanban, and people read the book, they'll learn this pretty quickly, is it involves the use of a lot of sticky notes. And believe me when I say, if you walk into John's house or you walk into the room where I work in, you're going to think we're insane. Because of the way the sticky notes are lined up in a grid on the wall. But, obviously John mentioned, Ted, the quote from Ted. I mean, when you look at the praise page of the book and you see quotes from somebody like Ted, who's the supervisor of North American publishing for Sony ATV, or somebody like Glenn Keeples from Pandora, or Lee Parsons, who's the CEO of Ditto Music, and all of these people are saying, read this book, I think that speaks for itself.
Right, absolutely.
Part of this, so that our mission is not to sell books. Our mission is to multiply talent within the next generation of great artists. So part of what we believe is that we're not replacing the Michael Jacksons well enough, the Whitney Houstons, Prince. Those type of artists, we need to do a better job. Replacing isn't the right word, because we really will never replace them.
No, absolutely not.
Make the next generation of them.
We should be putting more points on the board and creating artists who are healthy, functioning, profitable, and more importantly, creating great music. So that's kind of part of our mission and our DNA. We don't want to. We're not here to sell books. We do it. We sell books because this is the way to get this into the psyche of the next generation of artists.
Right. Well, it's obviously something you're both passionate about. The book has got about 10 chapters, and they're all broken down very nicely. Everything seems pretty easy to follow in there and mapped out. You get into like the foundation, the marketplace, publishing, and everything well beyond that. What were both of your roles within creating the book, though, and how did this partnership kind of come to be?
Yeah, kind of the thing that when I first brought this to Wade, it was called the Music Business Model Canvas, and there's a book called The Business Model Canvas that is really, we kind of base this on. It's a visual framework for your business and looking down at your business and seeing what's functioning, how it's functioning, and how everything's firing together. So, it was really rough when I brought it to Wade. I was like, this is a great way to explain publishing deals. It's also a great way to explain record deals in a way that you can kind of see around the corners, because you understand the differences in, an administration deal, a co-publishing deal, all the different types of publishing deals.
Yes, the different.
So the visual nature of it, I was like, man, this is really important, because right-brain people are visual learners. So we didn't want to write a book, a legal treatise, and, the artists have to become a lawyer to understand. We really wanted to get this into the hands and the feet of artists as fast as possible. And that means visual learning. So, those kind of core ideas were important when I brought it to Wade. And then when we started working on it 3 years ago, it just got better, because Wade really helped tune this and tighten it up and really helped flesh out some of the core ideas.
That's cool. So you guys were friends before that, or this kind of came about because of the world that you both work in? How'd you meet, I guess? How'd that start?
Well, initially we met. We touched base with each other on Facebook initially,
okay.
And one of my trips down to Nashville, I remember it was the week of CMA Fest a few years back. John and I made it a point to get together and grab dinner and talk, and it was kind of a getting to know you kind of discussion. And I think when you brought up the book, John, was probably about a year later, wasn't it?
It was the night of our bourbon on the patio.
Yeah, I think that was about a year after that initial meeting.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So, yes, I mean, we knew each other for, a short period of time. But, yeah, initially we connected through social media, and it was because of, both of our roles in the music business.
Cool. Good. Now, there was also, and we mentioned his name briefly a little earlier, there was also a third contributor to this book, Jeff McMahon, who is a fairly well-established country musician, session guy, I guess, that worked with Tim McGraw and a number of other artists. How did he kind of come into play with this?
Yeah, Jeff and I grew up together in Texas back in the 80s. Now, so we knew each other then. He'd come over to the house, we'd play, and then he moved to town 90-ish and started working with Tim. I moved to town in 91. Tim was an unknown artist,
right.
And then he took off. Indian Outlaw kind of started his career. So we just see each other around town. I went one way, Jeff went out on the road, and then we'd kind of see each other every year or two and just say, hey, we gotta do something, but everybody's busy,
Sure, of course.
So yeah, Jeff's a good friend and works with our company here on a lot of digital marketing initiatives. So we originally brought him in just to help proof this and kind of grammar check, and we liked him so much that we were like, hey, let's what he was bringing to it was just really helpful and valuable. So we worked on it together.
That's awesome. I'm sure he'd be happy to know that. Yeah. So hello to Jeff if you hear this.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll cross paths one day. Now,
and you know what? He worked awfully hard, and it was great having him to be a part of this. And one of the things that he did that I really enjoyed, and granted, it made the process of getting this book done a little bit more stressful, but, Jeff sat down and really went through everything in the book line by line and questioned everything. And it put us in a position where we were having to go back in and just tighten down what it was that we wrote so that we could make sure that, if there was a question that an artist would have because of something that we said, that we addressed that. And ultimately, it definitely improved the book.
Yeah.
Right. So he was almost like the editor, kind of, sort of, I guess, huh?
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So the last thing we want this to be is conceptual or fluffy or pie in the sky kind of stuff. This is really.
It's legit.
Use it.
It's the real deal. Like I said, there's just something about it to me that just feels different, and it's weird. I've read so much stuff. I've played, I've gone all over the place. And this book, I kind of wish that I had it when I was super young.
Yeah.
Because I've been through the whole production deal thing, and it ended poorly. So it was crazy to be the age that I was with the production deal that my band at the time had. It's just it's kind of like a sad story. It definitely it didn't end well for us, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I think you guys mentioned that this from soup to nuts took you about 3 years.
Easily, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I can only imagine because, there's a lot going on in here, guys. There's charts, there's graphs, there's crazy amounts of knowledge. It's very, very impressive. It's very impressive.
Thank you so much. It really, if I had to hand somebody a book and say, look, I'm not going to tell you how to write songs. I'm not going to tell you how to play your instruments. I'm not going to tell you how to produce your stuff. But you can't miss what's in this book. There's a section in the book where we say, music changes, trends change, production style changes. All that will change, but what's in this book is the stuff that doesn't change.
That's awesome, and that's
how
amazing.
Do you manage projects?
Cool.
How do you think about building a platform around your content? I don't care what kind of content you create. If you're a metal band, hip hop artist, country artist, who cares? The point is that you got to build a platform that supports and sells your content.
Right.
And this isn't sexy or fun stuff, but this is the stuff that gets you paid and creates a career that feeds your family and feeds your colleagues.
Right. I mean, and this book obviously does not discriminate against any kind of musical work at all. I mean, you could be like a folk singer, you can be like a death metal band, really.
It's totally agnostic. It's not about genre. It's about
all right. It is good. It is open-minded, people. Beautiful. Excellent.
Whether you're a hip-hop artist or a country artist, it's your widget can be red, black, or white, or blue.
Sure.
I don't care about that.
Right.
But what I care about is how you build a career and grow over time.
And I think, too, in talking about it, not being skewed toward any one genre, just to further back that up, the fact that when you go through the book and there's several case studies in it, there's case studies in there involving Journey. There's case studies in there involving Jay-Z. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter the genre, because the genre does not change the fundamentals of the business.
That's right.
Right. I mean, and that's what makes this all the more valuable then. So that's super cool.
I think so. I mean, that was our intent of helping artists with the stuff they need. It's a music book. It's a music book that doesn't talk about music.
Right. That's cool. No, that's cool.
You figure out your music. This will help you figure out your career and your platform and how you are successful.
Awesome. Now, was something like this hard to put together, though, or was it a natural thing, or were you going crazy? I mean, I'm sure you were going crazy at some point, because every kind of creative person goes crazy within creating their stuff. So was it hard to do this, though? Because it seems like it was it seems a little complicated, You know
what? I think it was easy for us to pinpoint the stuff that we knew needed to be in the book, but it was difficult to explain that stuff in a way that somebody who doesn't have a PhD in business is going to be able to understand. So we really had to take the approach of, we're going to explain high-level business principles, but we're not going to make it sound like we're explaining high-level business principles. And that was one of the things when John and I sat down and we started talking about this. I've been to a lot of conferences, I've spoken at conferences, and I make it a habit of not only watching the other speakers, but watching the people in the audience who are listening to those other speakers, specifically to see what their responses are and the looks on their faces and whether it seems like they're absorbing it. I'm a big believer in communicating with people in a way that is effective, so that they understand what it is that you're saying, because you can be sitting there telling them, you can be giving them all the gold nuggets in the world, but if they don't understand it, it's not worth a damn.
Yeah,
sure, absolutely.
Yourself with knowledge.
And that's why, when we sat down to do this, the approach was, how do we take these things and explain them in ways that somebody who, I remember at one point we even said, will a freshman in college understand what it is that we're trying to say here?
Right.
That's what was more difficult, was explaining it like that.
Cool.
And I think an example of that, Soda, there's a section in the book called Creative Differentiation. What is that, chapter 3, maybe?
Let me see.
And everybody tells you, you have to be different, you have to stand out.
It is chapter 3. Very good.
And they're right. You do have to stand out, but how do you differentiate from everybody else on the planet?
Mm-hmm.
That's the hard thing to answer. So, what we did is there's a section called Blue Oceans and Red Oceans. And there's 4 questions that you have to ask yourself. You ask yourself what it's called the ERC framework, ERRC. What do you need to eliminate that hasn't been eliminated? Mm-hmm. What do you need to reduce that hasn't been reduced?
Right. Of course. I mean, that's hard. That's hard to do, though. You know, that's hard to do. That's
It's hard, and you don't get it right day one. But what you do is you start to think about, answering those 4 questions. This will take a number of years to do right. You don't get this right in the first month.
Sure.
But the people that are different and that stand out, whether they're Lady Gaga's, Taylor's, or Coheed and Cambria, they've thought through these questions. Some of it may be natural, some of it may not be natural. But these are the 4 questions that help you get to the place to where you're not in a red ocean, to where you're just the same as everybody else. You're right. That's a hard thing to answer, but it's a vital thing to answer nowadays. If you're one of 3,000 clones, you might as well just, go to work at Starbucks.
Yeah.
So getting that down to a digestible place is important.
Cool, and that a lot of that is answered and comes up within chapter 3, which is pretty rad. It's a cool chapter. Now, for people that are going to listen to our episode here, I think we may have answered this a little bit throughout the last maybe 10 or 15 minutes of our conversation, but why should they own this book? Where and how can they get a hold of it?
Sure. Well, what we'd like to do, Soda, we want to gift your listeners a discount that we can send you. So we'll send that your way. But it's a 70% discount off the book. I mean, it's a textbook, so it's what is it, Wade? $89?
89, yeah.
Right,
$89.
okay.
So for your listeners, we want to give them, a discount that helps them get this into their brain and their hands.
Okay, that's awesome. I'll make sure, that when we get this out and about, that's, a key component to getting people to listen and check this out. Because, I mean, it's interesting for people that aren't necessarily musicians either. This appeals to a large group of creative minds. It's cool. I mean, like you said, that nothing in this book is like there's no expiration date on anything too, which is kind of rare. So that again goes back to me saying it makes this all the more valuable. It's pretty neat.
I'm actually really happy to hear about the discount, but I'm selfish. I want 100% off.
Oh, here we go. Oh my God! All right, we'll see.
We'll talk to the post office, see if they can.
Yeah, I'll let him borrow this, guys. For
I don't even pay for shipping. I'm serious.
He's he's the wise ass of the show here. So now there has been some really great praise for the book from the likes of who we mentioned earlier, Ted Goldthorpe, who's at Sony ATV, Steve Thompson, who produced and engineered Appetite for Destruction, amongst many others. Now, you guys just happen to be friendly with all these people, or how'd you get all that kind of praise? That's super cool.
People we work with. These are our colleagues and our people we work with.
It's awesome. You guys run in some pretty serious circles.
It's great that they trust us, and
sure. Yeah, that's amazing because there's a few quotes on the back, and then as we open like the first couple of pages, we dive into more, people out there that have really great things to say, and that's really neat because, like you guys said, you've got Lee Parsons in here from Ditto Music. It is Scott Welch who managed, Alanis Morissette, Collective Soul, Steve Perry. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's. So the part of our thinking and our DNA is that relationships for everything. So it's not about transactions. It's just about doing good business with good people. So it's been great to kind of hear some of the things come back from people that we respect and work with in regards to the book.
I'm a big believer in the idea that the music business is a business of relationships. And I know I tell a lot of the clients that I work with, I mean, obviously that can, when you say that, you could be talking about somebody at a label or a manager or anything like that. But it's also the relationship between the artist and the fans. Everything that drives this business comes down to relationships. And I hear a lot of artists complain about that. They always say, well, this person knew this person, or this person had this go their way because they knew this person. Well, yeah, it did.
Right, absolutely. I agree with that 100% because I spent a large chunk of time, pounding the pavement and just meeting and talking with people. I was fairly antisocial in high school, actually, and then when I got out of there and I started to play music out more, I realized that I did need to actually speak to people and kind of be confident about what I was saying, because even if my thing wasn't as great as I was making it sound, but I mean, if you come off confident, you're more likely to get somebody to check something out that could be able to potentially help you.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely.
They're betting on you.
For sure.
It's called betting on they're betting on the jockey, and they're thinking, okay, is this guy, can he do this? Can he be trusted? Can he execute? So yeah, I mean, as a business owner, you've got to communicate that you know your shit. Yeah.
And I know one of my mentors very early on one day told me something that I've carried with me through the last 5.5 years of doing this. He told me your net worth is equal to your network. So from the very first day that I started trying to build this up, I tell people all the time, I'm not in Nashville. Where I live, I'm surrounded by Amish. So there aren't a lot of people here locally that are knocking on my door looking for help. And it put me in a position where I know for those first couple of months, I literally spent 30 to 40% of every day trying to build a network, particularly in Nashville, because it was close enough for me to drive to in a day, and start getting to know people while I was building up my side of the business and doing the actual work with people. So, relationships. It's all about who you know, or who you're going to be marketing your stuff to, who you're going to be collaborating with, because that opens up a ton of doors.
You had me. I'm sorry. You had me at Amish.
There it is. There it is, guys. The comic relief again.
Done here.
People think I'm exaggerating when I say that, but John will tell you about the times we've been on conference calls that my dogs were going nuts barking because one of them was walking by the house.
Oh my God. Oh dear. That's like a horror movie waiting to happen. So
it does. Yeah. I love it already.
So if I can build up a music business where I live and I can use social media to network into these other cities, anybody can do it.
There you go, kids. That's it.
Yeah.
You can. I mean, I also kind of want to say, like, any idiot can write a song and have it be like a trending thing and, have, I don't know, like a hit song. But, I appreciate people that come correct and are the real deal. I mean, clearly you guys aren't like these pirate money grabbing lunatics that, the large percentage of this world has that population. So it's nice, it's refreshing,
Thanks. I mean, you've heard of the phrase influencers, that kind of makes me throw up in the back of my mouth, because you actually have to do stuff in the world. You have to achieve stuff and accomplish stuff.
You do.
And, we've gotten really good at that, and this is our way of helping other people execute better and win. That's how you build a career.
It's too cool. It's awesome. For people that want to find a spot online to learn more about the book, about Jetpack Artist Ventures, about Wade's stuff. I say Jetpack now just because this book is a Jetpack title. Now, and that's your company, John, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that, if you can, because I mean that's.
I'm sorry. Do you own a jetpack? Have you ever used one?
just our company.
You notice how...
Because that would sell a lot of books, actually.
You notice how my man asked a question over here, and then there's like dead silence because, Oh God! So, John,
I'll let it out the silence. Trust me. It'll be a hit.
Tell us about your company, Jetpack Artist Ventures.
Sure. Jetpack Artist Ventures is a venture studio that accelerates high potential artists and their assets. We have 4 different business units. We have Jetpack Records, we have the Sync Center, we have Artist Works, and we have Media Capital Partners. Our film and television unit, the Sync Center, we're supervising about a dozen projects right now. Anything from stuff for Toyota to documentary films for Showtime and Netflix. So, our idea is to build a company that's mutually reinforcing. So the sync stuff that we do is important to our artists at the record label, So it's a company that's built for the future. We're not really committed to the past and just being a publisher or just being a record label. We are positioned and built for the future. So that's kind of how we work. We've won some awards, had a Song of the Year, Video of the Year nomination.
Excellent.
Right. We believe that technology and music should work together. We're excited about what's in front of us. It's amazing what's happening in the marketplace, and that there are no gatekeepers anymore. I think the number one song on Billboard sold 2,000 units, Wade?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's like a top Billboard record. So it's like, if you can't sell 2,000 units, that's really not a lot of units.
No, it isn't. It isn't. You're right.
It's the gatekeepers. It's the Wild West, and sometimes that freaks people out. So the Hacking Music books helps you execute strategically and smarter. So that's a little bit about Jetpack. We've got some great artists and great film and television stuff, and great artist services. So
for sure. It sounds amazing. I'm going to definitely I'm definitely going to dive further in. Yeah, jetpackartistventures.com. And Wade, I know we mentioned at the top of the hour here, you have a company called Rocket to the Stars and your own podcast. So it is your turn to tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Rocket to the Stars, as I said earlier, is an artist services record label. So the services that I provide to the artists that I work with include everything from biography writing, press release writing, things like that. Really anything that involves some kind of writing. I do a lot of that for the artists that I work with. There's also some graphic design work in the form of like one sheets and things like that. I've done a fair amount of media interview preparation with people. Not only in working with them and delivering their responses to what somebody might ask them, but even sitting down and putting together talking points that they would give to the individual in the media so that they could go in and basically kind of keep control of the interview and the direction that it goes to make sure that their message gets out. Do a lot of things like that. One of the other things that I've really started picking up a lot of work on lately is working with artists on the things that they say when they're speaking to audiences between songs during shows, how they craft the stories, how they deliver the stories. If there's going to be a call to action at some point from the stage, trying to get people to sign up for an email list, what that looks like so that we can increase the conversion rate of those signups. As far as clients go, I've been fortunate because I've gotten to work with artists in a lot of different genres, and I've gotten to work with artists in a lot of different countries, thankfully, because of things like Skype and video conferencing.
Right.
But about 2 weeks ago, I took on a client that I was really happy to get called Craft Recordings, and they're in Los Angeles, and they actually own one of the world's largest collections of master recordings and compositions. So their artist list includes everybody from Ray Charles to Creedence Clearwater Revival to Nine Inch Nails and REM. So I was really happy to have them come on board.
Sure.
But, that's what I do there. And then the podcast that you mentioned, the 6 Minute Music Business Podcast, is something that I started late May. And, it's different from a lot of the other podcasts that are out there, and that was a decision that was made. I know John talked earlier about this whole idea of, how do you make yourself different from everybody else that's out there? When I decided to do the podcast, the first thing I said was, I'm going to keep the episodes short, like 6 minutes.
Right, okay.
And
our episodes are not short. I mean, this might be one of the shorter ones. We've got like 3-hour episodes. It's kind of intense.
Really?
Well, the episodes for that are very hyper-focused on one very specific subject, and it basically hits that subject, gets the information out, does it in a way that people can understand it.
Yeah, no,
and
you have to do that. I think that's amazing, and I agree with that, to just get these blast points out there, because everybody has ADD now, so...
Yeah, exactly.
With music,
and that was one of the reasons...
Yeah.
That was one of the reasons for doing it. And, I've been fortunate with that. I mean, it's really caught on. I know just a couple of months after I started it.
Yeah, I saw that CD Baby. Yep. I saw that.
Right.
That's cool.
They did a list of they called it the 5 music business podcasts that artists can't live without. Mm. And it ended up being on there. And then about a month ago, James Shotwell, who is a writer for Holics and Rolling Stone and Substream, in an article that he did for Holics talking about, I think it was like his 10 favorite music business podcasts.
Cool.
It was on there as well. So, the reception for it has been outstanding up to this point.
Yeah, I mean, our show here is... I mean, it's super geeky, because I get into a room with somebody and we get into everything, really. We start at the bottom, we go to current, and it's been a blast. I mean, especially for me, who's somebody's like a music nerd, geek by nature anyway. This one is really different, though, because I'm not sitting here talking to somebody that just put out a record. We're talking to these this dynamic duo, music business guys, about this awesome book that you just put out. So it's a little different. I thought it was going to be a little challenging for me, but the second week, I mean, shortly after we got rolling, it was really comfortable. You're both easy to talk to, so that was a bonus.
I honestly, I also want to applaud the short form podcast. That's a genius move. Mm-hmm. With like Soda said, paraphrasing, there's such a short span of attention nowadays with all the technology that everybody has at their fingertips. And when you give somebody 2-3 hours worth of content, it's amazing if they can get through that. I mean, it's almost unbelievable. But when you give them a couple minutes worth of content, then they're almost entirely focused and willing to participate. Yeah. Because
that's interesting you say that, because there's a section in the book on forced limitation.
Yeah,
and we're a big believer in kind of forcing yourself to do more with less. And there's one of the examples we gave was Van Halen 1, one of the greatest rock albums of all time, is recorded in a number of days, and it's just ridiculous what they did with almost nothing. And there's other examples like James Wan, who developed what was the movie Wade? Saw. So he had to shoot a movie in one room with one camera.
Yep.
And what that forced limitation forced him to do was create a movie that grossed about $6 billion worldwide.
Yeah, I mean, he does great work. I mean, look at him now. He's done a ton of cool stuff.
It's again the principle of artists like to work forever on a record, have every option at their hands, and that's exactly wrong in creating.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Absolutely, 100% agree with you.
The forced limitation of doing more with less actually makes your art better.
Yeah, and I actually am.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I I am, me personally, I am a huge fan of force limitations. I love it. I know a lot of music artists, they can't stand that. You know, they always say, well, I wish I had more money. I wish I had more time. I wish I had more. It's always more. But, you know, the way that I have always looked at it is artists are creative people. And when you are in a situation where you have these force limitations, that is where the creativity in business comes out. So you have the creativity in your art, but this is an opportunity for you to implement creativity within business and come up with some really outside-the-box ideas. Me personally, I look at it as a challenge. I like it when somebody says, okay, I want you to pull this off, but we only have this to work with or this amount of time. What can you come up with? Me personally, I look at that, and I want to do it just to see if I can do it.
Yeah. It's fun.
It is fun. For sure.
Honestly, I just to add to that and to let Soda say something real quick, but that also kind of reaches a very small percentage of people out there that are actually capable of reacting, if not creating, under pressure, because that's what kind of differentiates that small percentage of people that can be truly creative and successful compared to the rest who need a lot of time to maybe fine tune their craft, because solving a problem under pressure is what creates a diamond. Being able to create, being able to actually come up with a good idea at the low spectrum, or a piece of genius artwork at the high spectrum, is because you were told you have this amount of time. Exactly, and that
it's a force multiplier.
That's a great way of putting it. Force multiplier. That's cool. An ingenious term, actually.
So there's a lot of stuff to quote throughout our conversation here.
And creators have this in their DNA. They just kind of forgot about it, and they want to work on a record for 2 years.
Yes, and it's completely missing from the school systems, which is a completely other subject. I mean, critical thinking. Exactly. Critical thinking.
No, I agree with you too.
Problem solving is just it's a huge advantage in life, and a lot of people just kind of don't even need to go there. And the people that can actually do that, they tend to show promise in every aspect of life.
I personally, I hate recording, so the quicker it's done, the happier I am. But going back to what you guys, you referenced Van Halen 1, I always think I get a chuckle out of how Nirvana made Bleach on $600.
Yep.
And then, Nevermind was huge, and then people obviously backtracked, and then Bleach was huge. Bleach is my favorite Nirvana record. I just think there's so much charm there, And then also, Monkey will laugh because I reference this band almost in every episode. Then you've got a band like Jellyfish who made a record like Spilt Milk, which doubled its budget, and they killed themselves making it. It was known as the Nightmare on Sunset, that record. So. But I mean, the proof is in the pudding. There, that's a horrifyingly brilliant, flawless piece of music.
People, their game is raised under pressure.
Oh yeah, and for sure.
You tell someone you have 2 weeks to turn something around, and that date isn't moving.
Yep.
They freak out a little bit, but then their brain and their DNA and their creative muscle goes to work.
Yeah, no, it's totally deadlines are healthy. I mean, they're healthy. They kind of suck at times, but they get you to get the job done. So
that's right. Yeah,
I get it.
That's a big. There's a lot of that in hacking music. The idea of force limitations and how that is a force multiplier. And again, you're not going to do everything under the gun like that, but gamifying that in a way to where it actually becomes fun. Like we just did a thing for Toyota. We had to turn it around in a week. That was fast.
Right.
But, our guys know how we work, and they hit it out of the park. So
cool.
Fun thing.
And I've had times where clients have called me in the past and say, hey, I need you to put together an electronic press kit. And I say, when do you need it? And they say, day after tomorrow. It's not the optimal conditions that I really want to be working under, but it's those times where I say, okay, you need this because there's something coming up. We've got to get this knocked out. And that's when, you basically start to rally the troops and you say, oh, it's time to get shit done.
The guys at Fire Festival could have used your help.
Yeah, that's... two
my favorite documentary ever.
Yeah,
I need to see that.
Yeah, there's actually two. There's a Netflix one, and then I think Hulu.
Yeah,
put one out. Yeah,
no, they're phenomenal.
We talk about that. We talk about that at home. I still haven't. I personally haven't seen them yet, but I will. I'm definitely gonna watch.
It's funny.
I saw the Netflix one. I haven't seen the Hulu one.
It's funny because spoiler alert to all you douchebags, but whatever. They had the catering problem. And I listen to Pandora a lot because I drive for a living, for a day job. And there's this ad that comes on because I don't have like $5 to pay for the monthly no ad version. And there's this ad that comes on. It actually came on literally right after I watched the documentary. It's like, for all your catering needs and emergencies, all you need is this app, and we will figure out what you need. I'm just thinking the Fire Festival should have just fucking called this app, and they would have been good. Instead, they served cheese sandwiches to a bunch of
like paper tents. And, oh my god!
Yeah, no, I'm sorry for the side note, but hashtag Fire Festival is a success.
Oh god. Well, I mean, there's a lot of obviously horror stories out there within this business. But this has been really, really awesome, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time out and hanging out with us tonight.
Absolutely.
Anything else you want to leave us with? Any knowledge you want to leave behind on your way out? We covered a lot, so.
You know what? I think it's all in the book, Soda.
Right, for sure. Yeah, we don't want to give away everything. I get you. We want to get, we got to get that discount code in there and get a couple of these books in some hands.
Yeah, it's a significant discount. Hopefully it'll help some people.
What's the discount code? Just can you repeat that? Is there one?
It's Soda 70.
Soda 7, it's beautiful. I am part of a discount code. I'm raising the horns right now.
Wait, is that because...
that hasn't happened yet.
Is that because Soda was born in the year 70?
I'm not born in 70. Yeah, God.
No.
He loves to, age me.
Off.
Like 70% off.
70% off. Gotcha.
Soda 70. I'm going to put that, when I do my little write-up to preface the wonderful interview we have done here. Now, this will take maybe like a week or two max before we release it. This one will be a little bit easier. Monkey, a.k.a. Ronnie, my partner here, he does the editing for me, which is great. And we're not playing any music within this one. This one is straight talk, so it'll be done.
Wait, no, I do want to stay with some tradition. So I was going to ask, and this is something I used to ask a long time ago, because typical question that any kind of musicologist would ask another would be, what are you listening to nowadays? And then that person would take a couple seconds to try to think of the coolest songs or the coolest albums or the coolest bands that they can think of so that they wouldn't look stupid. But what I would ask at the time was, what CD is in your CD player in your car right now? Just to kind of put them on the spot. That doesn't really relate at this moment anymore. So now my question is, what are you listening to? Because we will put a little bit of music into this episode at the beginning and definitely towards the end. So I try to get the two of you.
When I'm in beast mode working, I love Coheed and Cambria.
Cool.
That's badass, actually. That's badass.
That just gets me. I think
that's like the ultimate under pressure music, I would say. If you had to come up with a project really fast, you just had to blast some Coheed and Cambria, and it would just kind of get the brain synapses blowing. And
it is very thought-provoking music for sure, right there.
And the other?
I listen to a lot of different things. Genre-wise, I bounce around to so many different stuff.
You're on the spot. Just
right now, one of the bands that I've been listening to lately while I've been working is the Clarks.
Okay.
I've always liked their music. Cigarette has always been one of my favorite songs. But and for them, on top of it, they're local. They're from the Pittsburgh area.
Cool.
Okay.
So I would say right now, I've been listening to them quite a bit while I was working.
That's cool. Today, when I was tightening up my little interview here, I actually put on Gregorian chant. It is hard for me to sometimes focus if I put on a record that I love because I want to just hear it and like sing along with it and get down. You know what I mean? So I sometimes put on like instrumental stuff, and nothing like really too crazy either. There's this guy, Dino Melito, who just put out an EP where he you know that Japanese artist Kitaro? He's like some super synthesizer. Yeah. Dino actually broke his songs down into like acoustic pieces. If you guys are into that, you should definitely check his EP out, Dino Melito. It's just under his name, and it's 5 tracks, and it is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I find myself putting that on a lot to work. Yeah, Dino Melito. He's awesome. So
I'll tell you another band to check out since you're kind of going overseas on us.
Yeah.
There's a band called The Hue. It's spelled the HU.
Okay.
And they are it's going to sound funny when I say it, they're a Mongolian metal band.
All right, cool.
And they've had 2 songs that have gone viral online, and they don't have any albums out yet, but they're actually releasing their debut album at some point this year. I don't know when. But it's really cool because it's like metal music, but they also do the Mongolian throat singing for the vocals.
I gotta say, I know exactly who you're talking about. The singer of my other band, Rico and the Rebels. He sent us this link of this song, and it was this guy singing in like the lowest monotone voice that like you've ever heard, which I could never replicate. And the guitar player playing like this 2,500-year-old guitar that had like 4 strings. Yeah, no, it's so addicting. It's so interesting to listen to because it's slow metal. It's slow. It's definitely metal, but it's super ancient. It's almost I don't know. I mean, it's powerful. It's very powerful. And to add to that, I drive for a living. I drive coach buses for a living. I'm in New York City a lot, back and forth from JFK. And usually, if I'm in a good mood, I listen to a lot of baby metal. It kind of gets me like it gets me in the mood to cut people off. But if I'm in like really thick traffic, like super thick traffic, it's got to be stand-up comedy. I need to just kind of
who's your top comedian?
I mean, I'm.
You had to pick one.
I would probably suck Joe Rogan's dick for money.
Oh my god!
But I'm actually Greg Giraldo. He is probably in my top 5. Bill Hicks. And recently I've been listening to a lot of Kyle Kinane.
I'm a big Bill Burr fan.
Yeah, well, I mean that should go unsaid. There's some guys out there that should just go unsaid. But Bill Burr, anybody from Boston, Stephen Wright, but I listen to a lot of comedy. It just laughter is a great remedy for traffic. If you're stuck in traffic, and which I am all the time, and I'm driving a big bus, I can't make these crazy maneuvers. But definitely listen to comedy. But if you're in the mood for like a little bit of I guess adrenaline while you're trying to get somewhere fast, listen to some Japanese pop metal and
baby metal is great.
Baby metal, they've got some very, very terrible songs, but at the same time they've got some they've got some really good stuff too. And I'm not
that's
gonna...
up there with Dragon Force.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, sure.
There's we see now this kind of we changed lanes a little bit here. This is the type of thing that I personally can do all night is sit here and like recommend stuff back and forth. But this isn't 6 minutes long. long, but
we
it's
should
not
do
like
this
our
again.
usual 3-hour episode.
We could definitely do this again, though. I mean, we could definitely do this again.
Yeah, guys, keep us posted on how things are going, and if there's an update, we could definitely do it again. I love having people come back too. I think we've only done that maybe once. There are a couple of previous guests that I want to bring back again.
Love to do it.
But
do you guys do any traveling? Do you guys travel around? Do you visit the East Coast ever?
Yeah, we were up in Boston. We actually launched the book up at Harvard for
about a year ago.
Because we do have a very mobile setup. I mean, we could essentially meet you, and we could go in the middle of Central Park and have a little candlelight, albeit illegal, podcast because it's an open flame in the middle of wooded area.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if you guys,
yeah,
if you're in New York, or if either of us are traveling for some sort of reason, we'll definitely reach out. It doesn't need to be business related. It could just be like lunch and kind of a hang.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, definitely.
Thank you again so much. This was super cool. I mean, I learned a lot. I learn a lot when I do these episodes, and that is so awesome for me. I leave here with more knowledge, so that's always a bonus. So I'll keep you guys posted when we're going to get ready to unleash this. We'll put it out there as best as we can. We'll get some people to listen to it. The code is SODA70. I'm going to put it in writing as well. And that's it. I guess the rest is history at the moment. John and Wade, this was really, really cool. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the book, too, John.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right, Wade. All right, guys, be good, and we'll speak soon, all right?
Yeah, have a good night.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. See you later. Woo! All right. Well, there you have it. Definitely a little different. So hopefully, all of you ADD listeners can take this on and learn something and listen to it and enjoy it. I hope everybody enjoys it. These are always really awesome for me because, again, I get to talk to people that I have so much respect for, and it's really a privilege for me to do this, actually. I would like to definitely give a special shout out to, before we go out, Jay from the Going Boom podcast and Michael H. from PT Grimm. I spoke to those guys last week. Jay actually just interviewed Michael, and I came up a bunch of times in their interview, which was touching and flattering and humbling and really, really amazing. So I want to thank them for that. So take care of each other. Don't feed us after midnight, and over and freak out. Peace.